Welcome to the Money Mastermind Show. Let's talk money.
And welcome to the Money Mastermind Show. Technology and consumerism move at the speed of light these days. You buy any new tech, and before you know it, it's already outdated. What's popular today gets old quicker than ever before. Trends come and go before you even know that they've been a trend. So how do you avoid just buying all the newest things and then just wasting money on it? Today we have Michelle Jackson of shopmyclosetproject.com, and she's going to help us explore how to keep new things or the old things new, let's say. So welcome to our show, Michelle.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Glad to have you here. And the other members of our Money Mastermind show are Kyle Prevost of youngandthrifty.ca, Miranda Marquette of Planting Money Seeds, Tom Drake of the Canadian Finance blog, Peter Anderson of Bible Money Matters, he's not here with us tonight, and myself, Glenn Craig of Free From Broke. So if you are watching us live, we do have an event page, and if you go on there, there's a Q&A app. So if you have any questions on how to make old things new and to save money with that, drop us a question. We'd love to take it. So how do we make old things seem new again? Just what are some of your thoughts? Who has some ideas on making the old new?
Well, I did a 1-year no shopping challenge, and quite frankly, you would think that everything would feel really old, but you have to be so creative with all the stuff that you have that tapping into your creativity and like making new outfits or just extending the life of an item becomes kind of a challenge and a lot of fun. So that actually was a way for me to appreciate what I already had, extend the life of the stuff that I had, and just by using creativity and thinking creatively, I was able to really feel good about the stuff that I already had in the house, and it actually killed my shopping as well. So,
would you say it's that you found new ways maybe to use things or combine things, or just the fact that you were able to engage your creativity in it that maybe sparked your interest in some old things?
Both, and quite frankly, I had no choice but to use the old stuff. So if you're not shopping for clothes for a year and you have 2 pairs of jeans that explode on you in front of other people, if that did happen, you basically have to tap into the other stuff that you have in the house. So, I literally had pants explode off me because I used them so much. So then I was like, well, hey, I've got dresses. I might as well wear those, And those were things that I hadn't touched. And so it was a really good way to freshen up my wardrobe and enjoy what I already had.
Yeah, it's interesting how, I'll have clothes that maybe sit in the back of the drawer or in the closet, and then I'll pull them out and go, usually because it's like, the end of the laundry cycle and I just haven't gotten to everything else yet. And then go, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, I remember why I liked this shirt or these pants or whatever. Sometimes I remember why I didn't. But sometimes you can rediscover things that are there that you didn't even know, which is nice. How else? How else can we make some old stuff seem new?
Well, one of the things I thought about was something that we did when we owned a house and we were living in Utah was just kind of rearranging furniture. When you get, because you do after like 5 years, we were getting really tired of being in the house, and you don't just run out and, well, some people run out and buy a new house. We didn't, but we weren't going to run out and buy a new house just because we were tired of the house. So we were tired of the look and the feel of the house. It was feeling kind of stale, and we did eventually end up replacing some of the carpet, which helped, but that wasn't particularly cheap. But one of the things that we did to kind of hold us over until we could save up the money rather than running out there and freaking out was like rearranging the furniture and just moving it to a different spot to kind of make things look a little bit fresher, and changing some of the light fixtures can make things look a lot nicer, and you can do that without spending a lot of money. And so that's something we did. And then another thing that we did once was we had this old desk, and my husband sanded it down and refinished it, and it looked different and really new, and it didn't cost anything. All it cost was a can of stain. So it worked out really well. So those are some things that you can do just like in your house to kind of spruce things up a little bit without going crazy and spending a lot of money on redecorating.
Speaking of furniture, we've got a lot of hand-me-down furniture, and as long as I have toddlers, I'm pretty determined not to replace it with anything new.
Just to interrupt, it's not even a toddler thing, man. You wait till they're out in college, and then you can buy new furniture, I think. But
I had that discussion with someone recently. Apparently, it's not toddlers, but we'll see how long it can last.
When they're older, they tend to carry like other stuff to the couch too, and that's when you jump around on them a little more often, and do all sorts of things. But I don't want to break any dreams you have of getting new stuff.
Well, one of the things we did to make some of these couches bearable, because they didn't exactly look current, was get some nicely fitted couch covers. And now sort of all our couches and love seats actually look like a set, even though they're not underneath at all. So for just much less money, we can kind of keep it going a lot longer that way.
Was that like a service that came in and did that for you, or
no? You literally just buy a couch cover. It's not truly reupholstering, but it's like a cover that kind of fits around it. And
do you have it there in the background there?
That is one of them, actually. Yes.
At least you don't have plastic on it like my relatives used to do back in the day.
No.
Yeah. I've been there.
Then they would like take it off, maybe, and it would be brand new.
I don't think my grandmother ever took the plastic off.
Well, not while you were around, anyway.
No.
Yeah.
I don't think she went to so much trouble to bag every piece of. I think those were 24/7 plastic covers.
When's gonna go over? Big scramble.
No, I do not want to watch them again. You know what trouble I go through. I mean, it's a good point though to bring up, in that items do depreciate. Taking care of things or giving it the right care probably goes a long way to saving having to buy something new. Like, what are some ways that we can do that to help things going? I mean, we could put plastic on all our furniture. I don't know that that's practical, especially on a hot evening like now. But
just don't wear shorts.
I think there's this tendency where, because technology is so accessible to buy new things, and all these new things are always coming out, that people have this tendency, like, if something happens to it, who cares? I'll just get a new one, right? Whereas if you maybe take a little bit of care of an item, it can last so much longer, and you can save so much money, and that by doing simple little things, you can save.
But I think the issue would be, do you have an item that is well made to begin with, that you can put the energy into having it reupholstered or having your shoes taken to a cobbler, or do you have one of those cheap items that you've gotten from, an inexpensive store where, things are manufactured cheaply elsewhere? And I think that's part of the issue. So if I'm going to maybe H&M, maybe it's difficult. Maybe I'm not going to be as, compelled to keep up those items versus a Prada bag, Or if I have beautiful leather shoes versus like the stuff that I get at Target, that might play into how I decide to keep that item and manage that item. So I think the question is, how much money did you pay in the first place in order to and is it worth it to maintain it in the long run?
I'm hearing lots of different things. Like, one, is it the issue of because you spent a lot, you want to make sure that you take care of it, right? Because you're not going to necessarily replace that again very quickly, or you don't want to. And I think that's one part of it. And two, I think it's also how much of it is it's the quality of what you're buying, and that it's going to naturally last longer anyway.
Right.
So Do you think those both play into it? How much of one does it play into the other? Like, on which purchases do you make that decision on?
Well, for me now, things are a little different because I really don't. I'm really into quality versus quality. And so if I'm buying a good pair of shoes, I'm going to take those to a cobbler instead of tossing them because I've probably put some time and effort into getting a good pair of shoes. And I kind of buy American most of the time anyway. Sorry, Canadians. So I, for example, I have boots from Fry, and they're American-made boots, and they're expensive. And so if they get kind of torn up or whatever, I'm going to make sure that I get those fixed, versus going to H&M and getting a top. Maybe I'm not going to be like, oh my God, I need to, sew that top. And so I think for the typical consumer, that's part of the issue is we can get so many throwaway items that we're not as mindful about longevity.
Yeah, I actually find it unbelievable that many of the successful retail models in both Canada and the USA, because now they're the same stores essentially, are based on the idea that you'll wear an item like 3 times. Mm-hmm. And I find this especially for like young women's apparel. Maybe everyone knows this, but it's like a recent observation of mine. My wife was explaining this all to me, that it's like the trend comes in, it's super cheap, you get it manufactured. It's gonna like maximum last you 5 times through the wash, but that's fine because you're supposed to throw it out anyway. Mm-hmm. That's just like an amazing. I'm way too lazy to buy a wardrobe. My wardrobe turns over like once every 8 years, maybe. And that's out of laziness, not frugality. Like I can't imagine.
Is that lazy, or is that like a guy versus gal type of thing?
Okay, so I have like 50, not kidding you, 50 items of clothing. And the only reason I have 50 items of clothing is because, and I wrote about this on the blog, but sometime late last year or early this year, I'm not sure exactly when, my husband told me I needed to get more clothes because I had like 37 items of clothing.
Oh, wow.
And he's like, you need to get more clothes. I don't like to buy clothes. I've worn this shirt many times on this show. People who notice these things could probably look back at episodes and see how many times I've worn this shirt on the show.
I think I have more T-shirts than we've had shows, so I can wear a different one every time. But we've talked about my hoarding in the past, though, so leave that alone.
But to talk to your point about maintenance, Glenn, just aside from clothes and such, I find like that's more my strong suit. I'm not handy, so to take something old and make it new again, I just don't have the creativity. But I am really super like conscious of maintenance, whether it's vehicles or anything around the house, because I know I'm not good at that, and I'm gonna have to pay an expert likely to fix it. So I just can't get over people that will spend, you think about what $25,000 after-tax dollars looks like for a vehicle, and they'll get this new vehicle or 2 years, and they won't even glance at the owner's manual. Like, I wonder what the percentage is. It's got to be under 10% that actually glance at the owner's manual. And I just think that's insane. Like, how many hours did you have to work for that possession? And now you're not going to worry about, it's like, the oil changes will take care of themselves. Computers do it all anyway these days. Like, no. What do you do?
And oil change, rotating your tires. I mean, these are things that I've even forgotten too. You don't rotate your tires, and it's going to cost you like hundreds of dollars when you have to get new tires sooner. Whereas if you for like the $5 or even free, depending on where you go, they'll rotate them for you, and they'll just last that much longer. Like, those types of little maintenance things are insanely helpful, but people end up throwing away so much money.
Decks are another one where I've seen so many people, they build the deck, they love the deck for like the first month, and then it goes into disrepair. And then the next year when it comes time to like refinish it again, it's like, I'll do that later, and then all of a sudden, you've got rot and your home is on Disaster Deck's TV show or something, and it's not even safe to be on. And it's like, that wood is supposed to last longer than 3 years. Like, I don't know if you understood that when you initially put it in, but you put all this effort if you paid a professional to do it, and now you're not going to spend the like 4 or 5 hours on an afternoon somewhere to stain it again or finish it. It makes no sense to me. That maintenance will pay for itself like 10 times over.
Well,
I think it's a mindset too that people aren't they aren't developing. They don't want to put in that extra little elbow grease to keep up and take care of anything.
Well, but to a certain extent, though, I mean, that's another thing you have to consider as you're starting to figure out whether you want to spruce this up or make it look new or make it look nice. Is you've got to look at that time versus money and what do you want to spend your time on. So if I had a big fancy marvelous deck, and I do have a deck now at this house, and I will probably stain and seal it because it's awful. But
do it.
But to that maintenance day, I mean, maybe you don't want to spend 4 or 5 hours maintaining it, but maybe you want to pay somebody else to do it instead. But I guess the thing is a lot of the time you look at it and you say, well, I can't get that time back. This is why I take my oil change to a professional, because it takes them 20 minutes and it would take me 2 hours, and I think it's worth it to pay the 20 minutes. To pay the money for the 20 minutes than spend the time. I can't ever get the time back. I can make more money. So I think when you start thinking about, well, how am I going to do this? How am I going to spruce this up? I think you have to look at, well, if I spend the time to do this, is that worth my time? Because time is more valuable than money. You can't ever get it back. So then it becomes a thing, well, do I spend to keep it up? How much money is it going to cost me down the road if I don't keep it up? And then as far as the time factor goes, is do I enjoy doing this? I think it'll be fun to do the deck, so I'll go do the deck. Because I think it'll be fun. It'll be a fun use of my time. My son can help me with it. It'll be a good learning experience for everyone. So that'll be worth it. It'll be a good use of my time. But perhaps somebody who doesn't have that kind of time or doesn't enjoy doing that sort of work, maybe for them it might be more worth it to pay somebody else to do it.
Or even
either way, it's a good investment. Right? Whether you invest in your time or your money. It's way better than every 5 years replacing whatever you're working on.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But even then, if I don't know whether I'm going to keep up with this thing, there's the cost of upkeep, and you have to understand what that is going into whatever you're going to buy. So let's say just in a deck, if you're not going to be good at that, you tend to let things slip and whatever. I mean, we could talk about setting reminders and doing things like that. I mean, I think we know those types of productivity hacks. But you could also consider, maybe I'm not going to get a natural wood deck. Maybe I'm going to get a synthetic wood that it's all weather, and you know what? Maybe I just need to tighten screws once every 10 years. I don't know what you need to do to take care of one of those decks. But something like that's a consideration too. In that case, it's worth spending a little bit more up front, and it goes back to that quality, than having to deal with this every 3 years and such.
I think also just people need to decide what they really want in their home. So I've gotten kind of wild and crazy over here, and I've just started getting rid of stuff. And that eliminates having to manage things that I don't want to manage. So, before I had Miranda have a lot more clothes than you do, and I've pared down my wardrobe. It's so embarrassing. But before I had this huge wardrobe, and now I have literally half the wardrobe. And even now, I feel like I could get rid of half of it. And I probably will, because I want to just keep everything very simple. I have a much smaller home because I don't want to be managing a whole bunch of things. So I think sometimes people, instead of letting stuff in their lives that will take too much time to manage and maintain, don't let it in to begin with. Just keep it simple. And then you won't have this conversation about creating longevity and things that you could care less about.
Things take up time, space, and money. And
Exactly.
if you're not taking care of them, they tend to just take up time, space, and money somewhere else, and it's even worse. But yeah, look, if you're not gonna even if you buy, people love a fancy car, right? And they're great, but then you find out, oh well, I need special oil for it, I need special gas for it, I need special whatever, this, that, and the other thing. All the parts are going to cost more. So sometimes even buying quality still has its cost also. So you always have to understand what's coming into that. And buying a bigger home means you have to do this many more things. Maybe you have to flush out the whatever system. I don't know. But it takes upkeep, and you have to understand what going in and living a bit simpler can probably eliminate a lot of that, I guess. What else? Technology, I think, is a big thing that we get sucked into. And I remember yeah, it was about a decade or so ago, going out and buying a fancy new digital camera that I thought was really cool. And it took all of but like 2 years maybe for that thing to be like completely blown out of the water by like a lot of different other things before it was obsolete. And I think those types of things happen all the time. You know, you buy some new tech and then all of a sudden it's out and you go, yeah, what now? You know, how do we avoid that? Seems like that's such a shiny object thing that we want to have, and then we find out it's kind of dead or quickly outdated.
I think for me the key is if you're going to invest in tech that you're going to use all the time or that is super important to you. And then if it ends up that you have to replace it, whether it breaks or something happens, at least you can be secure in the knowledge that you got some value out of that product because you used it often. I had a similar experience, Glenn, where I got a digital camera for Christmas, even though I repeatedly told my mother I didn't want a digital camera. And she got it. It was a great camera. The person that eventually ended up with it loved it. But I never
should we admit that?
Camera ever. I don't think I'm shocking anyone here when I say my mom doesn't listen to the podcast. So, but anyway, in fact, if my mom knew how to describe a podcast, I'd be shocked. But that explains a little bit about the digital camera gift. But so anyway, yeah, I don't take a lot of pictures. I don't do that. So I would have never got used to that. And then obviously the smartphone thing came in, like you were saying. Like for me, even if I maintain my laptops, I'm on my laptops a lot, right? I'm a blogger. I do a lot of nerdy stuff online. I download and watch a lot of things. So my laptops are going to get burned out sooner rather than later, but I get a lot of bang for my buck out of them, I feel like. So don't do it for competition's sake. Just because Apple has the new watch out and your buddy got it, if you don't need an Apple Watch, I don't even know what an Apple Watch does that your smartphone doesn't, to be quite honest. But that's a whole side thing.
Well, I think it's interesting to know that they've done studies that show different parts of the brain light up when you get something new, like, or when you experience something new, or when you see something new. And so that's one of the things is we crave this novelty. We want this new thing, and it makes us happy to see something new, whether it's like a new picture or if we're going to a new place or eating a new food. Well, maybe not eating a new food, but just new things. And I know I like new things. I think it's fun to go see new things and have different experiences. And I think that falls into the technology. You know, what Kyle was talking about, oh, hey, I got it and it was fun. And we like that. And I think that part of our brains and our hardwiring makes it difficult we get tired and bored of things. And so we want something new. And so we have to learn how to spruce it up. Otherwise, we'll just be constantly searching for the next, novel thing to like give us a little kick.
Yeah, I think finding your really use and not just trying to justify it, where you come up with like, oh, of course I'm going to, all of a sudden take up this new hobby and be awesome at it and spend 24/7 on it. But really understand yourself and are you really going to get your use out of it, so that even if it goes bad in a year technology-wise, you've gotten value out of it. So like for me, I went the quality route for after that camera became really obsolete. And I said, you know what? I want a good camera and I don't want to spend for a new one every 2 years. I'm going to spend a little bit extra and buy a really good quality DSLR. And that camera I've had now maybe 6-7 years and still use it.
How do you maintain that camera?
I keep it away from the kids.
Oh.
They are not supposed to take pictures with it.
Okay, fair enough.
It's not a lot of upkeep. I mean, you keep it in its case. You make sure it stays dust free. You clean the lens. It's not too hard. But we've gotten so much more use out of it, and it's not been something that there's so many better cameras out even now. But this one has been. The quality was so good when I bought it that it really hasn't become obsolete. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like even like what Kyle was saying with a computer. Because I do the same thing, I'm using my computer everywhere, I'm bringing it with me every which way. It was worth me spending more on a computer in the beginning to know that I was getting a good quality computer, that I was going to be able to beat up and put whatever I wanted onto it, that it was worth spending that money instead of buying the cheapest thing that might break down in a year or two.
One thing I found with computers too is that people start to think after a few years, oh, it's just running really slow. It's running really slow. I don't know what's going on, but it's normally everything between like installing software, uninstalling software, getting viruses even, and sometimes just going back to a clean sort of operating system does wonders for a computer. And I used to fix computers for people on the side, and it's amazing the amount of times that people would just sort of give up like 3 years in, and this computer's too slow, I need a new one, and it's not the case. You can kind of just go back to the factory settings on like Dell or HP or anything like that pretty easily, and it's like getting a new computer.
I found with my older computer, all I did was buy extra RAM for it.
That too, yeah.
I doubled the RAM. It cost me maybe less than $100. Maybe, I don't even remember way back when. And all of a sudden, it was like brand new for like another 2 years at least. All of a sudden, it was fast again. It wasn't bloated like it was, and I was able to, for the $100, I was able to at least push it for another couple of years rather than buy a whole brand new computer.
Mm-hmm.
So a little thing like that too.
Right. Well, and yeah, I'm looking at, I need to pare down my computer. I need to get rid of some of the stuff on it because, we had technical difficulties with me trying to get started today. And I realized that, my computer is almost 6 years old. It probably needs some sort of maintenance done on it. But what Tom said really kind of struck a chord with me as well, because a few months ago, my son was complaining about how slow his laptop was. Oh, it's so slow, it's so bogged down. And I looked and I, got some antivirus thing. It's called Avast. It's really great for Macs. And I put that on there, ran it, and found like more than a dozen infections. He's amazing. He's a 12-year-old boy.
Oh.
Every site he visits is an infection. So.
I'm not touching that.
Oh boy!
Back away slowly. Okay, I walked into that. Just back away slowly.
Poor guy.
Oh.
Anyway, we got those. We got it all cleaned up. I got the blocking software put in, and now it's fine. It runs great.
Yeah.
You said your computer's like 6 years old, Miranda. That's like 89 in regular person years.
I know,
Because
right?
when you write that much and you're on it all the time, that's actually you have like the marathon man of computers there.
At 6 years, Miranda, you probably hit the point where you probably can't really fix it that much because, like Glenn's example of getting RAM, like the types of RAM change now, and the pricing gets out of whack and stuff. Like you could probably get a new computer for less than any decent fix of yours.
Well, we'll clean it up and see what we can do.
But that goes also to if when you're buying something new, if you understand how you're going to use something, spend, and I hate to say spend as much as you can, but like for something like a computer, almost buy ahead if you can. Like get the best chip that you can, get the most RAM that you can, get the biggest hard drive that you can that's reasonable if you know you want to use it for a period of time.
Well, I think
because sometimes doing it now, even though you could get things cheaper later on, sometimes you can't. It's better to do it now than deal with having to get a new computer because that in itself becomes obsolete.
I always get mine refurb. I get mine a model behind and refurbished.
That's the cheapest way, yeah.
And sometimes the refurbs are actually more powerful too.
It's actually
the latest chip in it.
Yeah, I get really good bang for the buck with the refurb because, like I said, it's like a model behind, so it's just turned in by somebody who just has to have like the latest thing all the time.
My wife does the same thing. Miranda's had great luck.
Oh yeah, it's great. Well, this computer that's 6 years old, then my laptop, which is coming on 2 years, I think, and then my son's laptop. I mean, it's all been refurb stuff. That's like a model behind. So it's great. A good way to save money. And you get something new to you.
Yeah, you still get that shiny cocaine boost in your brain that you're talking about there.
I think another thing also is like, Kyle, you mentioned the Apple Watch, right? It might be the most amazing product in the world. I don't know. but it's brand new and it's on its first iteration. So whenever you're buying like that first one, you don't know whether that tech's going to last at all. Is it going to take off? Like give it maybe a few cycles to go through, get all the bugs out, and let's find out, whether it's really going to stick with us. If you look at like the first iPhone versus what's out now, they were vastly different. Because if you've jumped on maybe iPhone 3 or 4, you were in this, like, they had their thing set. They knew what they were going to do. They knew where all the buttons were going to be. But, those first couple of ones, you were really just paying to get the new thing.
So basically you're saying resist being an early adapter and look at what happened with BlackBerry.
BlackBerry, to be fair, were around for a long time.
Yeah.
They were the industry standard. But it does show you how something that you think is the greatest thing can disappear also.
There's a lot of Canadian dissing this episode.
Yeah.
I think it's just Michelle. Michelle has it in Canada.
You're not that far from Canada.
Hey, Obama still uses his, I heard. That's what I saw.
Does.
He still uses a BlackBerry, so there we go. The infiltration plan is still underway there.
My dad has a BlackBerry.
That's the quickest way to kill a product's momentum. I think my dad still has a BlackBerry.
No, right?
Done.
Well,
no one's buying it ever.
Yeah, my dad's Hotmail account. That's
Speaking of phones, though, I don't know about you guys, but it seems every time, like maybe 3 years in, things like the batteries start going, and the cost of a replacement battery can be almost as much as a phone. So it seems like they really are meant to be disposable right around the
I will say
term.
this, my new Samsung one, and I'm getting no kickbacks from Samsung to say this, the battery replacement's super easy. That was one of the things I checked out when I got it, and because I actually put in, because I'm terrible on phones, I forget to charge them all the time, so I bought like this super duper aftermarket battery for like next to nothing, and I am a tech idiot, and I managed to install it pretty easily. So yeah, they are getting
easy on that. Yeah.
And sometimes you could find like good deals on even maybe a slightly used battery or whatever on like an eBay or even on Amazon. And something like that on a cell phone, a new battery might be all you need to keep going for, however long that you need it. If it works for you, keep it going. You don't necessarily need to jump into the new thing. The thing with cell phones is it just seems like every month there's another new one coming out that does something else. How do you keep up with even that? But I could say like my latest iPhone it's going on, it's over 3 years now, or almost 3 years. Will I jump to the new one when it comes out? Maybe. But
the iPhone 6 is too big. I'm not loving it.
You don't want a phablet, like you don't
it's like the size of Tom's phone. It was
get used to them eventually.
Killing me. It's killing me.
I was gonna say the secret is you just become a 250-pound 6'2" guy, and it's all relative. Like it's relatively small in my pocket.
No.
Oh, now it actually fits in your hand.
Have you tried to wear clothing with pockets made for ladies?
Yeah, no, I can honestly say I haven't.
Nothing fits in those, much less the iPhone.
You're not saying women.
You might be
clothes,
shocked to hear I'm
just
not the
ones that
skinny
have
jeans type.
pockets made for ladies.
This is getting awkward.
Yeah, we've gone a little off task here.
One thing I was thinking of when Michelle was talking about the early adapter premium that you pay, which always astounds me, the people that, especially the people that are like, oh, I've got credit card debt, but I need to be the first one on this bandwagon. For those gamers out there, it's like crazy competitive to jump on the newest PlayStation or Xbox, and I know the temptation's there, but man, it's always amazing to me after that first Christmas season how quick you can get like 30-40% off that system. And I just think as a value proposition, it's not very good. I don't know how you convince your kids of that if you're buying it for your kids, but if you're buying it for yourself, I think it's a pretty easy way to save some cash to just hold back a little bit.
And how
but
cheap
you're going to miss out on stuff.
Oh, but you know what?
That's the problem with people. They can't wait.
So you know what's keeping the PlayStation 3 instead of the PlayStation 4 is the fact that the PlayStation 4 is not backwards compatible.
Yeah.
So
But they do that on purpose, right?
I know. The PlayStation 3 was backwards compatible, so we're like, we got our Rock Band 2 out, we can play that on the PlayStation 3. We got, all of my son's games he can play on the PlayStation 3. But once we get the PlayStation 4, it's over. So we're kind of,
You might as well just hold
Keep
out
that
for
thing
5
going.
now.
Keep that thing going. Keep that PlayStation 3 going. And then that's one thing is it's that it goes back to that if you can control that impulse to want something new or want to feel part of the in-group who has the latest thing, then yeah, you could save quite a bit of money by not paying that premium.
Well, the other problem with being early adopter is when you kind of back the wrong horse. Like if you got like HD DVD or if you got Betamax players before that or anything like that. Or
do you remember the Sega Saturn, Tom? Do you remember being in that
I had
strike
one.
zone?
I still have one
Nice.
technically.
Oh.
That's a museum piece somewhere.
I was the
Someone will
early
buy that.
adopter. I know. I got a lot of video games to sell.
How many games came out for the Saturn?
television?
Like 8?
I've got every system. I've got a lot to do. I was the early adopter for many years in a past life before I was good with money. I bought every video game system when it came out. I bought a DVD player for almost $1,000 when it first came out, and yeah, I know better now. But I used to spend money on really stupid things, and then watch people buy a DVD player for like $200 a year later, kind of thing. So.
But did it make you feel good for a minute to be like, yeah, I paid $1,000 for this? Did it make you feel good for just like a minute?
Maybe a minute, but even back then, long movies on DVD, you actually had to flip them still. just to play the whole movie.
I remember those days, yeah.
My comparison with cocaine was off. Like, it's cheaper to be a coke addict than to be addicted to.
Well, there might be some other drawbacks.
$1,000 for it. Like, Miranda, was that first minute great? Like, you can just hook that straight into your veins. Like, what?
So what are you saying, Kyle? Is that a way to save?
I'm just thinking, like, I might have been underestimating that rush, that adrenaline rush from the first adopter, if it's that strong.
But you know what? That isn't it neurologically, like, that is the same place it's tapping in. Like, that's why opening up that fresh box. I mentioned it, I think, last week on a podcast. I love that Amazon Prime and getting that box in the mail. It's like, this is awesome. I'm getting a box. It could be like the most boring thing in the world, but it's like, this is new. And you open it up and you're like, well, you got all the packaging, and then it's gone. And you're like, all right, I got to order something else now to get that feeling again.
Just break up your order into like 4 different orders because it's Prime and it doesn't matter anyway. It's not like the old days where you had to group together stuff. You'd be searching for the $5 item just to get over the.
I'm gonna make sure I get my money's worth out of that Prime.
I can just let Terry get. Maybe it's my new toy. Oh, diapers again. Damn.
Oh.
But it came in a box, so I got to open it. That was awesome. But it does feel good, and that's kind of it's almost a scary thing too, because of how powerful that is. But I think it's also important to tap into. I mean, like, how many of us have felt a buyer's remorse at some point or other? I know I have.
I would use every debt that I have.
What was like the worst one, Michelle, if you don't mind sharing? Just out of curiosity.
Freshman year in college, when I didn't know anything about money, and all of us got credit cards for Express, and we bought. I swear to God,
I did that.
You did that too. Oh my God! But this gets worse. We bought about each of us $1,000 worth of clothes, and then we didn't have a car, which makes this even worse. And so we had a shopping cart in upstate New York, because I went to school in upstate New York, pushing the stuff back to college because we had so many bags of stuff. That was.
I love the commitment. I love the commitment to shopping on that.
Oh my God, it was
That's
great.
Awesome.
So yeah, that was pretty bad.
I bet it felt awesome though, coming back with a shopping cart full of.
In upstate New York,
Until you got the bill.
No, not really. Yeah, no.
And people,
Oh my gosh! Oh
just
my
put
gosh.
a blanket over top. People start throwing money to you as you push.
I think they just shook their heads and were like, "What are those stupid girls up to?"
And I think you're hitting on an important point there, though, is the availability of credit makes it easy to just buy whatever's new and not worry about it also. Like, who cares about whether it breaks down? Who cares if I lose it? I mean, how many of us know somebody that can't take care of a cell phone and they just go through them like water almost? Like, oh yeah, my cell phone broke again. No. This one lasted like 3 months. And you're like, yeah, they're supposed to last longer than that, But it's so easy when you could put something else on a credit card, whatever it is, that you don't necessarily think what that cost is.
I find cell phones are a great example too, Glenn, where it's like people, I think, now consider them a necessity, or a fair number of people do. So if it breaks, they don't go through the same like cost-benefit analysis as they would for another item, where it's like, a tablet. Take, for example, it's like, well, you weigh the costs and benefits. If I already have a phone and a computer, is it worth it? And you go back and forth. You look for deals. Like, no, I need a phone today. You go, and then they spend whatever they need to spend to get that new phone, or hook up on whatever expensive plan they need to get. It's a really weird dynamic that exists with cell phones, I think.
And
but
once
I think
you have
you're
one,
assuming people think about their money deeper than they really do.
and
I mean, come on, you're talking to a group of people who actually talk about money and write about it and have podcasts. Like you are in this rarefied group of people who are really like on task and focused because you've worked through whatever was going on before. So you're giving a lot of people, I love you guys, but you're giving a lot of people credit where maybe credit's not due quite yet.
But I think Kyle makes a good point, though. I mean, think about like let's say 30 years ago, and if you had like one color TV in your whole house, maybe two, it was a big deal, and it was like a luxury. But now it's like, how many people are like, oh gosh, gotta have the TV? And I mean, I still have a 32-inch TV, and my gosh, that's small. And so I think we have this, and even go back even farther. I mean, I look at my grandfather, who is in his 80s now, and I think about his lifetime, and he just looks at the things that we have now that we consider needs, like a house with 4 bedrooms for 2 people. When you're talking about families of 10 that used to live in a house with 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom. And now we're like, everybody's got to have their own bathroom. And we just have there are so many things that what used to be a luxury becomes like the new normal.
That's the danger with lifestyle inflation. Once you get that thing, whatever level you're at, it's difficult to jump back down. Once you get that first smartphone, once you get that whatever, you don't want to go, well, I'm going to go back to like a little flip phone that's black and white and has like, doesn't do anything. Like, some people can do that, but a lot of people find that very difficult to do.
Okay, so yeah, well, I think about, I used to have a track phone. Here it is. And I think about going back to texting, where you have to like hit the 2 like 3 times to get to a C, right? I think about texting that way now, and it makes me sad because I'm so used to like turning it and having my QWERTY, right? But I think about going back to a phone like this, and I'm just like, no, because I text a lot, and you're right. I mean, you just get used to it. And you're like, could I go back to this if I had to? Yes, I could. It wouldn't kill me.
I show my students this bad boy. I keep it around in my class just as to show that I'm a real dinosaur. They honestly can't believe that this was ever used. That this phone that you can't, they grab it and they're like trying to talk to it, trying to get Siri online, and I'm like, yeah, good luck with that. But anyway, I plan on selling this to a museum one day. It's close, but
yeah.
There's got to be a hipster in your class that wants that phone.
reminds me of Star Trek 4. Hello, computer. Everybody's like,
hello.
Yeah, exactly. A keyboard. How quaint.
I've got a bunch of those types of phones, like, all laying around. The kids play with them. Because there's really not a whole lot we can do with them otherwise. We've talked about a whole bunch of things here. Before we go, how do we know when it's okay to upgrade and buy something new. You know, we've talked about ways to avoid it, and I think that's important. I think finding the value in what you want, taking care of things, you know, refreshing what you have, and thinking about a whole bunch of different factors is a good thing. But, you know, every now and then you got to buy that something new. You know, like what's your criteria for when you got to bite the bullet and do it?
For me, when the cost of repairing, both in time and money, starts to overtake the cost of buying something new. So in other words, if I'm talking about a vehicle, if it's in the shop once a year, I can stomach that, usually depending on the bill, but I can stomach that. If it's in the shop every month, now my time and my money, it's now not worth it. It's signaling to me I need to go in another direction.
How about the rest of you?
It's pretty much the same thing. The idea of looking at a repair, like we just had a dishwasher break on us, and we had a repair guy come out, and he said, "Oh, well, it's the pump or whatever," and he told us how much he could repair it for. It was a couple $100. He said, "But the motor's probably going to go soon too, and that'll be like $500." And we're like, "Okay, well, $200 doesn't sound so bad when you can spend $1,000 on a dishwasher." but when he put this thing overhanging that, well, the motor's probably going right away too, that then we didn't know we could be repairing it in a week or 2 years from now. But so and it was 12 years old. He said that they're normally good for about 10 years, and we had no idea about that either. So we broke down and bought a new one because it just didn't make sense to repair it almost up to the cost of buying a brand new one.
I'm pretty much the same way. The thing that I do, though, before I run out and buy something is stop and say, do I want this thing still? Is this thing still worth having? In the case of a dishwasher, the answer would definitely be yes. Because my goodness. But, you know, there are some things out there where, you know, if the TV breaks down, I wouldn't be running right out to buy a new one. I can stream it on my computer monitor is almost as big as the TV, for heaven's sake. So, I think I would stop and think before upgrading or buying something new. I would definitely go back and say, well, is this something that I really want to replace in the first place?
Yeah, I think looking at it and saying like, how is it going to affect your life? I mean, like really affect it. Not like, oh, you know, I can't play the latest game now. Maybe that's important to you if that's really what you're into. But yeah, like what is it really going to do? Like if my computer broke down, that would really hamper me for some reason, you know, and it's like, okay, you know, like you guys said before, like, okay, now the cost of it being broken is a bad thing that's going to affect me. But to just buy a new computer because it's old, that doesn't really improve anything. It doesn't really do much. It doesn't kind of move the needle in my own happiness, let's just say.
With appliances and electronics, for me, I have two standards that I work by. With electronics, I just use them until they die, like literally until they die. So I have my Mac that I think actually my actual Mac is a dud. I've had a lot of problems with it, but I'm not going to replace this until it literally dies. That's it. The same with my TV. I just recently replaced my TV and got a flat screen like about 2 years ago. But the other TV was perfectly fine. Like, why? I mean, who cares? Like, it was still working. And if I didn't like what was happening on TV, I could stream stuff on my laptop. So that's one standard, like using it until it literally dies or until you break the screen on your iPad or iPod and it scratches your face accidentally. That
when the pieces of glass are actually in your
I'm dealing with that now. So that might be replaced soon. The other thing is, am I endangered by the item that I'm thinking about replacing? So if it's like the hot water heater, I actually, when I bought my place, I don't think I realized that the hot water heater was as old as it was. So one day I came into the house and I smelled smoke and discovered that it had
blown
like the
the element.
circuit had blown, yeah. And unfortunately, it's in my closet, so my clothes could have caught on fire. It could have been a big thing. So now, if you know, in terms of just maintenance and things like that with appliances, they've built in obsolescence, so you know those things are going to break. It's not like 1945 when you've got a dishwasher that's going to last forever. So you just need to know they've built this thing to break, which is crap, pardon my French. And so how old is this? When do I need to start, saving money? I need to start saving money now because I will have to replace it. Ironically, I have a dishwasher that I've never used since I've moved in my house. I'm one person. I don't want to use it. I just don't want to use it. It doesn't make sense to me. But now I'm at the point where I'm like, do I need to remove this or get a new one because it's old? Or do I just need to take it out and put like a storage area, which I think is what I'm going to do for my future renters who will love me for that. Ha!
Right.
And it goes back to the cost of the upkeep too. When you buy a home, there's going to be so many things that are going to break, and so many things that you're going to have to pay, and you got to know what you're getting into. You buy a car, you have to know what you're getting into. Even a computer or whatever it is, a cell phone, you have to know what you're getting into. What's going to happen a year down the line, 2 years down the line, 5 years, 10 years down the line. This has been great. I think we've really gone into a lot of ways that we could kind of avoid spending that extra dollar there. Some people I think might watch it and say, oh, you guys are just being frugal, but I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think it's really just putting more value in the things that we have and making sure that we're not eager to throw away money when we don't need to.
What's wrong with being frugal?
Nothing.
Sorry.
It still has.
It's a bad word to some people.
It still has
whatever.
stigma on it that it associates maybe a little closer to the cheap than it should. Like you were saying.
I like being frugal, so I can go to places like Australia. So hey.
I'm with you right there.
It's all about priorities, right?
That's right.
But just like you said earlier, for us who understand that, it's an easy distinction. For people out there, it's like frugal equals cheap to some people.
Just throw my words back at me.
Yeah, you like that? Anywho, what we like to do at the end of our show is to give a final word and kind of sum up everything that we've been thinking. So we'll go around. And Kyle, if you start us off, final word on making the old things seem new.
I guess my final word is just try and find the experts when it comes to making old things seem new. And in my case, at least, that is my grandparents and my parents. I look back, and I don't think I'm happier than they were when they were my age or, whenever that was. And yet they reused things and made old things new all the time. So I know that that's not the secret to happiness and that they sort of knew what they were doing and didn't need that. So,
Miranda, what's your final word?
Yeah, just figure out what matters to you as far as time and money and figuring out the value of your money and your time and then deciding what's worth fixing up, what's worth getting new, and then what you can do yourself and what you want to pay someone else to do.
Tom, your final word on making the old seem new?
Well, we're obviously in a very disposable society nowadays where everything is pretty much designed to be thrown out, but I think, we just have to fight that as much as we can. Like my dishwasher example, things will need to go eventually, but whenever you can repair something, if the cost works out, you should definitely do it and not just be so quick to replace it for the next great thing.
And Michelle, if you'll close out our final word.
Tap into your inner Dust Bowl era relatives like spirit. If they're probably not alive now because most people that age are, sorry guys, they're probably gone. But kind of tap into that pioneer spirit where people were like, wow, I've got this item and there's like 15 ways to make that last for the next 2 years. Like tap into your creativity. Have fun with it. Like it doesn't have to be a punishment to create longevity in an item. Have fun with it. So I think we sometimes get so wrapped up into this idea that it's a punishment to save money and think creatively. Have fun with it.
Good stuff, guys. Michelle, for those people who may not be following you and knowing your site, please give them a little bit of a heads up on what you do in your site.
Okay, I write a blog called the Shop My Closet Project. The URL is www.shopmyclosetproject.com. And I basically write about lifestyle and personal finance and share my painful stories of money, choices gone horribly wrong. But at the same time, I talk about like things like dating. Today I talked about dating. I've gotten into minimalism and frugality, and I have a lot of fun with it. No judgment on my part. If people make mistakes, hey, that's life. And kind of just, working through the waters of money. And I also have a podcast called Girl Gone Frugal, which is on Stitcher and iTunes.
So there you go. Make sure you follow that. Girls Gone Frugal is the podcast, right?
Girl
Gone Frugal. Okay.
Not. Oh, that sounded like a horrible.
Yeah. Let's not go there.
Whoa.
And shopmyclosetproject.com.
Yes.
Thank you, Michelle, for joining us and adding your knowledge and sharing your wisdom with our audience. And for everyone else out there, until next week, be good with your money.
Thanks for joining us on the Money Mastermind Show. Get more information at moneymastermindshow.com. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on iTunes and YouTube and follow us on Google+.